Welcome to A Damaged World, Chapter 1, A Loner. Stephen was having the same nightmare that he had every night since the world had changed. His family, his friends, everything gone. Nothing about his old life remained, all 17 years of it. First, it was his parents. They had changed. They attacked. Then his friends came in, one by one, not as how they were before, but after the change. Some had their appendages missing. Some were missing eyes, nose, even a jaw. Some had skin flaps hanging off their body loosely. One by one, they circled him. They let out a loud wail and started to advance on him until Stephen was trapped underneath a pile of putrid, foul-smelling bodies. He felt suffocated. He couldn't move. Then his mother saw him, opened her mouth, and lunged at him to bite him. It was at this time he would always wake up. Breathing heavily, he bolted upright, covered in sweat. His dreams were always the same. They left him numb and unnerved. He hated them. He hated them so much he was more comfortable during his waking moments. He dreaded his sleep. How long had it been? He did not know. These days, he just knew when it was day and when it was night. He wondered when the nightmares would stop, if they would ever stop, or would he spend the rest of his life like this? As always, he wondered how long his life would last for. With the new world, no one knew. They all lived from day to day. He shook his head, ridding himself of the groggy feeling. It had to be morning. His body has taught itself to wake up around the same time every day. Of course, he was never too sure until he left his home. Over the years, he had managed to make an underground home by digging a series of holes and intersecting tunnels. He felt safe there. None of the change had the brain capacity to find it. He was alone, just like how he wanted to be. He moved out from under the blankets and stretched out. The roof to his underground home was just tall enough to let him walk upright. He walked through the tunnel that had candles tucked away in little inlets. They created an orange aura around the tunnel. It was not a lot of light, but it was enough to see. I wonder if there's any places that have electricity still, he wondered to himself. It's funny, he thought. He always took electricity for granted. All he knew as a kid that he had it, then he didn't. It was not the games or even the TV he missed. It was the smaller things, lights, a microwave, and other appliances that he missed so much. He made his way to the ladder he found on a trip once. This was one of only 2 entrances and exits to his place. He reached up and slowly pushed up, making the hatch lift up just a few inches. He felt pretty safe. He had not heard any sounds, but he knew that it never paid not to be too cautious. The sick might make some moaning sounds, but sometimes they were quiet, sneaky bastards. He looked around. He didn't see anything. He lowered the hatch again, went down the ladders, and grabbed his backpack and his cricket bat. He looked down at it. It was the only thing he still had from his old home. Over time, he had changed and modified it. Now, some sharp nails stuck out the flat end of the bat. And on the back, in slightly faded marker, "The Destroyer" was written, a name he gave his primary weapon. Stephen left his underground home and put a hatch back over the hole. He scattered some dead leaves over the hatch. He knew that the monsters would not know the difference, but he knew that there were others out there, the ones who hadn't changed. It was unlikely they would stumble across his home. It was in the middle of a forest. The nearest town was about 5 miles away, but he wanted to be sure. The last thing he wanted to do was come back to a broken home, everything missing, or worse still, that people had taken it over. He gave another look around. He saw nothing. He heard the birds chirping. That was always a good sign. The birds flew away when the change came. The birds acted like a natural alarm. Giving one final check that he had everything, he left his home. He hated going on these trips into the town. They took most of the day, sometimes even longer. What it came down to, if he was being honest with himself, he was scared. He was scared to leave his home. He was scared he might hurt himself. Now that there were no doctors to help, Even a small injury could be fatal, and he was scared of the monsters that might be hiding around the corner, waiting for their meal. He was scared of running into a group of other living humans. He had met other survivors before, but not often. He thought maybe 3 or 4 times in the last 3 years. 2 of the groups were small and friendly enough. The other was a group of rough teenagers that chased him and tried to steal his stuff and beat him. He was unsure which one was worse, the monsters or the people left over. He could at least understand the change. They were hungry. They only had primal thinking, food. But humans, they could do evil things if they wanted to. And that was the scary part for him. It was by their choice, not by instinct. Over the years, he had been living alone. He had come to be a recluse. He even would try to avoid the friendliest of living. After all, what difference would it make? They would most likely die soon anyway. That just meant another goodbye, another heartache, another reason to hate this modern world he lived in. He only did these runs once a month. He would find a nearby town, ransack the empty houses, shops, gas station, whatever had things that he needed, and leave. If the town was far away, he might have to spend the night, something that was becoming more common as time went on, and he emptied one town and he would have to go find another. He worked methodically in a circular, ever-expanding pattern. He found that he could mark off the towns on his A to Z map of the country. Each time he thought the town was empty, he would draw an X over the town to remind him. He looked up at the map, fanning his finger through the small streets that ran just outside the forest where he lived. His finger went past 2 X marks and stopped on a dot telling him this was the next town over. It appeared to be called Downsville. "Well, what a happy, uplifting name that is," he said to no one in particular. He found out that he was talking to himself several times a day to keep sane. He closed the map and tucked it back in his backpack. He looked up at the sky. "Best get going, moving on." He shouldered his pack and started to walk away, glancing at the dark clouds that were following him. End of Chapter 1. Stay tuned next week for Chapter 2, A Group. This has been a production by DHB Production Studios. Voices, material written, audio, all created by DHB Productions, all rights reserved.